The underestimated species. The hegemony ship entered Earth's orbit with the casual arrogance of a predator entering the territory of prey. Its crystalline hull shimmered in the sunlight, dwarfing the International Space Station that hung nearby like a child's toy. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Orbital Defense Platform Alpha, her dark eyes fixed on the alien vessel. 25 years in Earth's defense forces had taught her to recognize threats, and this gleaming monstrosity radiated danger despite its beauty. "They're hailing us, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported from his communication station. "Audio and visual." On screen, Vasquez ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The image that appeared made several officers gasp. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, with azure skin that seemed to shimmer with iridescent patterns. 4 arms emerged from a torso covered in what appeared to be living metal armor. Its face featured 3 vertical eye slits arranged in a triangle pattern, glowing with an unsettling amber light. "I am Overseer Drazkol of the Galactic Hegemony," the creature announced, its voice a harmonious blend of tones that seemed to resonate within the human listeners' chests. "Your primitive faster-than-light experiments have drawn our attention. The hegemony welcomes new species when they know their place." Vasquez maintained a neutral expression. "Welcome to Earth space, Overseer. I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Force." "How delightful," Drazkol responded, the condescension in his voice unmistakable. "A mammalian species achieving rudimentary space travel in such a brief evolutionary period. The Hegemony Council will classify you as Category D7, quite generous for newly discovered primitives." Vasquez felt her jaw tighten, but kept her diplomatic smile fixed in place. Category D7. The hegemony classifies all species according to their technological development and evolutionary maturity, the alien explained as if speaking to a child. "The progenitors, my people, are naturally Category A1. Your classification grants you limited trading rights within your home system and permission to maintain your existing colonies on Mars and your moon. You should be grateful." 3 days later, Earth's political and military leaders gathered in the underground complex beneath Geneva. The hegemony delegation had toured Earth's major cities and technological centers, making little effort to hide their amusement at humanity's quaint achievements. "They think we're children," Dr. Maya Okafor, Earth's leading quantum physicist, seethed. She paced the conference room, her lab coat swirling around her tall frame. "That smug 4-armed bastard laughed at our fusion reactors, called them adorable firecracker technology." President Santiago rubbed his temples. "Their technological advantage is undeniable. Their smallest shuttle could outgun our largest destroyers. But they underestimate us," General Weizong interjected. "And that's potentially valuable." Admiral Vasquez nodded. "They're measuring us against their own developmental timeline. The progenitors evolved over millions of years, developed technology gradually. They can't conceive that we might advance at a different rate." "What about Project Prometheus?" Dr. Okafor asked, her voice dropping to just above a whisper despite the room's security measures. The president's eyes darkened. "The hegemony's terms explicitly forbid development of certain technologies, particularly advanced weaponry and propulsion systems beyond our current capabilities, which means they fear what we might become," Vasquez said quietly. General Zhang's weathered face broke into a thin smile. "Then we should give them something to fear. I propose we not only continue Project Prometheus, but accelerate it. If the hegemony wants to put us in a cage, we'd better have the tools to break out when necessary." 6 months passed. Hegemony observers established a permanent outpost on Earth's moon, monitoring all space traffic and inspecting Earth's vessels at will. Humanity played the role of the grateful primitive species, accepting hegemony guidance and restrictions with apparent humility. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, 10 miles from the nearest tracking station, Dr. Okafor stood in a cavernous chamber watching as engineers worked on a massive cylindrical structure. Quantum field generators lined the walls, masking the entire facility from conventional detection methods. She turned as Admiral Vasquez entered, accompanied by Colonel Takashi Yamamoto, head of Special Operations. "Progress?" Vasquez asked, her eyes moving over the gleaming black cylinder that stretched nearly a kilometer in length. "The quantum drive is operational," Okafor replied. "We're integrating the gravity manipulation systems now. The hardest part was miniaturizing the technology to fit the smaller vessels." Yamamoto studied the holographic displays showing similar facilities hidden throughout the solar system, beneath Mars' southern pole, inside the asteroid Ceres, within Titan's methane lakes, and dozens more scattered throughout the Kuiper belt. "How many vessels in total?" he asked. 217, Okafor said, ranging from corvettes to the capital ships. Vasquez approached the railing, looking down at the massive vessel below. "And the Phoenix?" Okafor smiled for the first time. "The flagship will be completed ahead of schedule. 6 months instead of 18. The hegemony's arrogance has actually helped us. They are so convinced of our technological inferiority that their scans have become perfunctory. They don't even bother to check beyond standard energy signatures anymore." "Good," Vasquez said, "because I've just received troubling news. The Hegemony Council has reassigned mining rights in the Kuiper belt to the Accelarian Combine." "The Accelarians?" Yamamoto frowned. "Aren't they the client species that serves as the hegemony's enforcers?" "Exactly. The same species known for pacifying 3 other civilizations that refused hegemony restrictions." Okafor's expression hardened. "They're taking resources we've already claimed and developed. Those antimatter production facilities represent 30% of our energy economy. The Accelarians arrive in force next month," Vasquez said grimly. "The hegemony has given us until then to evacuate our facilities and personnel." "And if we refuse?" Yamamoto asked, though all 3 knew the answer. "Then we'll see how well Project Prometheus functions under real combat conditions," Vasquez replied. "We always knew this day might come. I just hoped we'd have more time." In low orbit above Mars, Commander Sophia Chen piloted her small mining surveyor through the designated inspection checkpoint. As always, her ship's systems were subjected to invasive scans by the hegemony observers. "Vessel CR-339. Your cargo manifest shows unrefined silicates from Deimos." The hegemony inspector's voice crackled through her comms. "Purpose of journey?" "Routine transfer to processing facility Gamma, Mars' southern colony," Chen replied with practiced patience. This was her 3rd inspection this week. "Proceed, but maintain designated flight path. Deviation will result in immediate interception." Chen acknowledged and guided her ship toward the red planet below. Once past the checkpoint, she activated a secure quantum comm channel hidden beneath layers of conventional systems, technology the hegemony believed centuries beyond human capability. "Phoenix Actual, this is Nightingale." Checkpoint cleared. Proceeding to drop point. Admiral Vasquez's voice responded, distortion-free, despite transmitting from Earth. "Confirmed, Nightingale." "Package status?" Chen glanced at the innocuous container secured in her cargo hold. Inside was a quantum processing core, the final component needed for the Martian defense grid. "Package intact. Delivery in 40 minutes. Good hunting, Commander." Phoenix Actual out. As Mars grew larger in her view screen, Chen reflected on the past 2 years. The hegemony had become increasingly demanding, restricting human development while extracting Earth's resources for their own use. 3 mining colonies had been reassigned to hegemony client species. Earth's protests had been dismissed with patronizing reassurances about the greater galactic good. Meanwhile, humanity had been building, hiding advanced technologies in plain sight, disguising quantum reactors as conventional fusion plants, concealing gravity manipulation systems within ordinary thrusters. The Prometheus fleet grew in secret, its vessels waiting in artificial caverns throughout the solar system. Soon, Chen thought, the hegemony would learn exactly what Category D7 primitives were capable of, and they wouldn't like the lesson. 2 weeks later, at the edge of the solar system, Dr. Okafor stood on the observation deck of Research Station Galileo. Through the reinforced viewport, she watched as the Excelarian fleet approached, 9 warships escorting massive mining vessels. The Excelarians resembled bipedal insects, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming with bioluminescent patterns. Unlike the progenitors, they made no pretense of diplomacy. Human station. The transmission came in an artificially translated voice. You have been instructed to evacuate this sector. Your presence is a violation of Hegemony Directive 5591C. You have 1 standard rotation to comply or face forcible removal. Okafor exchanged glances with Station Director Kwame Kozi. They're not even pretending this is legitimate, she murmured. Hegemony tactics, Nkosi replied. They use client species for the dirty work, maintaining plausible deniability. Galileo Station took Solarian command. Okafor responded formally. We are a scientific research facility with 300 civilian personnel. The evacuation timeline specified by the Hegemony Council was 30 days. We have 28 remaining. Timeline adjusted. The Solarian commander replied without emotion. 1 rotation. No exceptions. The transmission ended. Nkosi sighed heavily. They're not even trying to justify it anymore. This is naked resource theft. Initiate evacuation procedures, Okafor instructed, but only for non-essential personnel. Her hand moved to the quantum communicator on her wrist. I need to contact Earth Command. You think they'll send ships? Nkosi asked, his voice low. Our conventional defense fleet wouldn't stand a chance against those warships. Okafor's eyes remained on the approaching Solarian vessels. I think, Director, that the Hegemony is about to learn they've drastically miscalculated. Revelation and reckoning. The next day, alarms blared throughout Research Station Galileo. The Excelarian warships had moved into attack formation, their weapon systems powering up despite the evacuation transports still departing from the station. They're not waiting for the deadline, Director Nkosi reported, his voice tight with anger. They're targeting our primary reactor and life support systems. On the command deck, Dr. Okafor watched the tactical display with calculated calm. How many civilians still on board? 117. The security chief replied. The last transport leaves in 20 minutes. They won't give us 20 minutes, Nkosi said grimly. As if confirming his words, the lead Solarian vessel fired a warning shot that passed just 1 kilometer from the station, close enough to make the structure shudder. Final warning, humans, the Solarian commander transmitted. Surrender control of this station immediately. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Okafor straightened her lab coat and nodded to Nkosi. Send the signal. The director pressed his palm against a hidden biometric scanner. Authorization Prometheus Omega. Authentication Nkosi 9 Delta 7. For several seconds, nothing happened. The Solarian ships continued their approach, weapons fully charged. Then, at the edge of the tactical display, new signatures appeared. Dozens of them, then hundreds, emerging from hiding places throughout the Kuiper Belt, from inside dormant comets, from beneath the ice of distant planetoids, from the shadows of asteroids. My God, whispered the security chief. There are so many. In his command ship, Solarian Commander Vrecht was celebrating his easy conquest when his tactical officer chittered in alarm. Unknown vessels appearing throughout the sector. Supreme Commander. Hundreds of them. Vrecht rushed to the sensor display. Impossible. The humans only have 32 registered vessels in this system, and most are unarmed transports. These aren't registered vessels, the tactical officer replied, mandibles clicking nervously. These are something else. The first human warship appeared directly in front of the Solarian flagship, materializing through what appeared to be a localized space-time distortion. It was sleek and predatory, its hull a deep matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Nearly twice the size of the Solarian command ship, It bore no markings except for the name emblazoned on its prow in silver letters, UES Phoenix. On the Phoenix's bridge, Admiral Vasquez settled into the command chair, her uniform now bearing the insignia of Project Prometheus, a stylized flame within a rising sun. Commander Chen stood at the tactical station, while Colonel Yamamoto monitored the deployment of the rest of the fleet. "Open a channel to the Xelarian command vessel," Vasquez ordered. When the insectoid face of Commander Vrecht appeared on screen, Vasquez smiled coldly. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Forces. You are in violation of sovereign human territory." The Xelarian's compound eyes widened. "By hegemony law, humans are forbidden from possessing military technology beyond Category D7 classification. Your vessels are illegal." "About that," Vasquez replied conversationally, "we've decided to reclassify ourselves." She nodded to Chen, who activated the Phoenix's main weapon system. It controlled quantum singularity, essentially a miniature black hole contained within a precisely modulated energy field, streaked toward one of the smaller Xelarian vessels. Upon impact, the singularity expanded briefly, consuming a perfect sphere of the ship's hull before collapsing in on itself with a flash of Hawking radiation. The Xelarian vessel spun away, a third of its mass simply gone. "All Prometheus vessels," Vasquez broadcast to her fleet, "disable the Xelarian warships, but avoid total destruction where possible. We want prisoners, not martyrs." Throughout the Kuiper Belt, humanity's secret fleet engaged the Xelarian forces. Sleek corvettes employing gravity manipulation technology danced around the larger alien vessels, their maneuvers defying conventional physics. Medium cruisers deployed quantum field disruptors that left Xelarian ships powerless, drifting in space. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Vrecht watched in horror as his fleet was systematically neutralized. "How?" he chittered to his executive officer. "How could primitives develop such technology? This violates all known developmental patterns." Before his officer could respond, a brilliant light enveloped their ship as the Phoenix deployed its gravity web, a three-dimensional lattice of intensified gravitational fields that immobilized the Xelarian vessel as effectively as amber preserves an insect. "Commander Vrecht," Vasquez's voice came through all communication channels. "Your fleet is defeated. Surrender your vessels or face destruction." Across the solar system, hidden Prometheus bases revealed themselves, deploying additional warships that had remained concealed for years. From Earth's oceans, from lunar caverns, from Mars' underground complexes, humanity's true military strength emerged like a leviathan from the depths. In the Hegemony Embassy on Earth, Overseer Drazkol received reports of the Kuiper Belt engagement with stunned disbelief. When President Santiago entered the chamber, flanked by General Zhang and Dr. Okafor, the alien's normally imperious demeanor had been replaced by confusion. "What have you done?" Drazkol demanded, his forearms gesticulating wildly. "This technology is centuries beyond your classification. The Hegemony Council will not." "The Hegemony Council," President Santiago interrupted firmly, "will recognize humanity's new status or face the consequences." Dr. Okafor stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed the current state of the solar system, with hundreds of advanced human vessels now visible where before there had been seemingly empty space. "While you were busy underestimating us," she explained, "we were studying your technology, improving upon it, and developing our own innovations. Your assumption that all species must follow the same developmental timeline as the progenitors was your first mistake. Your second mistake," General Zhang continued, "was believing we would meekly accept your restrictions and exploitation. Humanity has never responded well to cages, Overseer." Drazkol's three eyes blinked rapidly. "This is unprecedented. No species has ever concealed such advancement." "Perhaps," Santiago suggested, "because no species has ever been so thoroughly underestimated." At the edge of the solar system, Admiral Vasquez stood on the observation deck of Research Station Galileo. now secure under the protection of the Phoenix and 5 other capital ships. Through the viewport, she watched as Solarian prisoners were transferred to secure holding facilities. The battle had been shockingly one-sided. All 9 Solarian warships captured or disabled with minimal human casualties. Commander Chen joined her at the viewport. The quantum transmission from Earth confirms the hegemony is in chaos. The revelation of our fleet has sparked panic among their council. Vasquez nodded. And the other subject races? 3 have already contacted us secretly, requesting alliance negotiations. It seems we're not the only ones who resent hegemony classifications. And Prometheus Phase 2. Chen smiled. The deep space installations are already operational. By the time the hegemony reorganizes enough to consider military action, we'll have secured the 5 nearest star systems. Vasquez turned from the viewport to face the bustling command center, where humans worked alongside the station's AI systems with practiced efficiency. You know, Commander, the hegemony may have actually done us a favor with their arrogance. How so, Admiral? They united humanity like nothing in our history. Old rivalries, ancient hatreds, all set aside to face an external threat. For the first time, we truly became one species rather than competing tribes. As if to emphasize her point, the tactical display showed Earth's conventional defense fleet joining with Prometheus vessels in formation around Mars, ships from nations that had been enemies less than a decade earlier, now flying in perfect coordination. What happens now? Chen asked. Vasquez's expression grew serious. Now comes the hard part. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do when threatened. We need to show them what we can do in peace as well. 1 month later, representatives from 27 sapient species gathered in Earth's newly constructed Galactic Forum, a massive structure built into the side of Mount Kilimanjaro. Some came from the hegemony, others from independent worlds beyond its reach. All had come to witness the emergence of humanity onto the galactic stage. In the central chamber, President Santiago stood before the assembled delegates, with Admiral Vasquez, Dr. Okafor, and other architects of Project Prometheus beside him. For too long, the galaxy has operated under the assumption that all species must develop according to the same pattern. At the same pace, Santiago began. The hegemony's classification system enforced this belief, restricting potential and stifling innovation. He gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's solar system, now protected by the most advanced defensive network in known space. Humanity proposes a new model, one where each species is free to develop according to its own nature and potential, where cooperation replaces classification and mutual respect replaces hierarchy. From the hegemony delegation, now led by a subdued Drazkol, came murmurs of discontent. But from the representatives of other subjugated worlds came expressions of hope. The Prometheus Protocol was born from necessity, Santiago continued. But what we build next will be born from choice. We invite all peaceful species to join us in creating a galaxy where advancement is measured not by age or history, but by what we can achieve together. As the applause rose from the chamber, Admiral Vasquez leaned toward Dr. Okafor. Do you think it will work? This new alliance? The physicist smiled, watching as delegates from former enemy species cautiously engage with one another. I think, Admiral, that the universe wasn't ready for humans. But it's about to learn that underestimating us was the best thing that ever happened to the galaxy. Beyond Earth's atmosphere, the Phoenix moved into its new orbital position, its quantum sensors monitoring space far beyond what the hegemony had believed possible. Beneath its watchful presence, humanity stepped into a future where no one would ever again mistake them for primitive mammals who knew their place. They had made their own place, and the universe would never be the same.